אין כאלוהינו, אין כאדוננו, אין כמלכנו, אין כמושיע.
The great story continues. We continue the epic story of the exodus from Egypt, the confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh, and God and Pharaoh. And in this week's Parsha, we have a fascinating verse. We talked last week about the fact that God had given Pharaoh an out. He could have said, okay, I'm going to let them go worship. They'll go into the wilderness, 3 days journey, they'll worship God, they'll come back. Then of course the people would not come back, and Pharaoh would be able to say, they've escaped, rather than I let them go. Escape is a little bit embarrassing, but not like I simply freed the slave nation because the God of the Hebrews demanded it. So after a number of plagues, which have really broken the spirit of Pharaoh, he tries and cut a deal. He says, okay, go worship the Lord your God. I'm okay with it. You're going to go worship. Then he says, who are the ones to go? Who's making this journey out into the wilderness? And Moses replies, we will all go, young and old. We will go with our sons and our daughters. Moshe says, bin arenu uviskenenu nelech. With our young and with our old, we're going to go. And then what does he say? Nope. You are bent on mischief. Only the menfolk can go. And Moses says, no deal. We don't go without our elderly. We don't go without our young. So what does Pharaoh understand? He understands who the Jewish people are. He understands that if the ones between ages 20 and 60, as the commentators say, if they leave, now they would not have to come back if they wanted to escape. They could escape. But to do that, they have to leave their children and their elderly behind. And he knew that's against the nature of the Hebrew nation. It's against the nature of the Jewish people. Because the Jewish people, they believe in a past, which informs their future, their present, and then they believe in building a future. So if they leave the children behind, they lose their future. If they leave their elderly behind, they lose their past. And then they have no meaning. The present has no meaning and the future has no possibilities. So here we have Pharaoh understanding the nature of the Jewish people. We are people of tradition. We respect our past. We study our past. That's what we're doing right now. We're reading this story again, each and every year, to learn something new from it and to be guided by our past. It helps us decide what we should be doing in the present. It gives us a moral and ethical path for our behavior, for making tough decisions, for how we want to lead our lives. But it also helps us create a future. So Pharaoh says to the Hebrew nation, to Moses, you can't go with the children and you can't go with the elderly, because if you do that, you're going to be a very strong nation and I'll have to contend with you. But if you're willing to leave everything behind, leave your past and leave your future behind. And Moses turns around and says, no, that's not the nature of the Jewish people. We never, ever leave our past behind, and we will not compromise on our future. The children are our future. We will build that future with them. And that's been the Jewish people. You know, when you come into a city, you know, the first thing you have to have, you're not allowed to live in a city that doesn't have a hospital. You got to take care of yourself. You know what else? You can't live in a city that doesn't have a school. Because if there's no school, you can't build your future. So Pharaoh, interestingly enough, understood the nature of the Jewish people. And we understand it instinctively. We understand that our elderly give us our history and our children give us our future. And that is why we make sure to show respect and care for our elderly and give them places of status within our community. And we build schools for the future. And we dedicate ourselves to Jewish education. If that's a lesson that Pharaoh understood, it's a lesson we should indeed understand as well. A lesson from Pharaoh about the future of the Jewish people and the nature of the Jewish people from Parashat Bo. Shabbat Shalom.
My people.